What's going on, everybody? Kenny Bomber's in the building, and it looks like EA is finally ready to stop holding back the punches because the news I just read about EA UFC 5 makes this sound like the best MMA game we have ever seen. This update comes from Mike Straw, who is a trusted journalist, and today he's bringing us some hard-hitting updates. So we gotta talk about it. But first, let me know in the comment section what changes you want to see made to this game, but don't forget to smash that subscribe button because this will be your new favorite spot for all of your EA UFC 5 updates, and to get knocked out on the live stream whenever this game comes out. But let's get into it.
Run, boy, they coming out.
Now, it's been a pretty long time since we've gotten a new UFC game. They had a pattern going and they broke it. UFC 3 came out in 2018, they skipped 2019. UFC 4 came out in 2020, they skipped 2021, and they skipped 2022. Now in 23, we're just finally getting EA UFC 5, but I think this move was for the best because UFC 5 is moving to Frostbite engine, which means this game is going to play different than any other UFC game we've ever played before. Now, I know a lot of people love EA UFC 4, but it just wasn't for me. I felt like the graphics were off, I felt like the vibe was off, and it played more like a Street Fighter game than it played like a UFC game. And don't get me wrong when I say this, EA UFC 1, 2, and 3 were cool, but EA UFC 5, so far from what we know, sounds like the UFC game I've been waiting for since the golden days of UFC Undisputed. So let's take a look at this article and see what we can expect from EA UFC 5. But I'm telling y'all right now, I can't wait to see it. It sounds like we're finally getting back to the good days without the gimmicks. So we're getting a brand new engine. Insider Gaming has learned that EA Sports UFC will move from the Ignite engine to Frostbite for the first time. Now, this is the same engine they use for Battlefield, NFL, Madden, FIFA. A lot of their different games use this engine, and they're finally switching UFC over to that. So I think we'll get a better experience with it for this reason right here especially. With the move to Frostbite, UFC 5 moves from 30 frames per second to 60 frames per second. That's going to be buttery smooth grapple transitions, y'all. I'm telling you. In addition to FPS, the transition to Frostbite brings more detailed characters, better light, and even a new environment presentation. Now, as stated earlier, a big problem I had with EA UFC 4 was the day I put it in my Xbox, I felt like it was ugly. The game never really looked good to me. I didn't like the presentation. I guess the backyard fights were fine for UFC 4, but I also think we need to leave them where we left them. I think they need to focus on the octagon in this ring and these big arenas and make this thing look as good as possible. I feel like the last time we had a big graphical jump with these EA UFC games was in the first one. I think it's pretty much looked the same ever since, and now is the time for us to get that big jump, especially with them changing this engine. The article continues. While we can't share footage in order to protect our sources, Insider Gaming was shown clips of the game. So this comes from an eyewitness. They have actually seen the game. The clips shown feature newly created walkouts that look nearly on par with what you'd see when watching UFC events. That means these character models are going to look a lot better. So that kind of eases my mind there to let us know that this game is going to look really good. All of the fighters have also received updates to improve the quality of their character design in this game, as you would expect. So I mean, that's a good sign as well. Now, this is where it gets big, because this tells me EA was pretty much like, you know what? Let's put sales to the side and worry about the quality in an MMA game. This is something UFC Undisputed never even did. And you could soccer kick people in the head in those games. I mean, let's get back to that. But let's go ahead and check it out. As discovered earlier, EA UFC 5 will be rated M for mature for the very first time. This opens up so many possibilities in an MMA game. With this game being rated M for mature, they don't have to worry about anything. I'm talking Mortal Kombat levels of blood, which, of course, I love it. Think about how much more brutal these knockouts can be. Even if you get those flash knockouts, we may be able to run up to the opponent and punch him a few more times now. I mean, it's brutal, but hey, it's rated M. We're all big boys now, and this does happen every week when you watch UFC. Think about the possibility of broken limbs from submissions. Think about the blood stain in the mat. Think about the Anderson Silva, Chris Weidman leg snap. So many possibilities, y'all. They can literally put anything they want in this game. Bring back the pride rules so we can get the soccer kicks. Let's do it. The article also tells us why this game was rated M, but keep in mind, they don't have the game yet. They were only allowed to see what they were allowed to see. This was because of how damage works within the octagon. Insider Gaming was shown how the damage plays out in fights. Elements like swelling and bruising accumulate with more accuracy as the fight progresses. So that's something we saw in the previous UFC games. If you kept giving somebody a leg kick, you would see the legs start turning red before they started stumbling over. So that means it's going to get a lot more brutal than this one. We may see the leg swelling with the leg bruising up on it as well. We may see a lot of black eyes, broken nose, maybe teeth getting knocked out. I don't know. Maybe we can knock the mouth guard out and knock some teeth out with it. We'll see. On each fighter, there are 8 regions for bruises and cuts and swelling. One source said that it claimed that the damage can be combined up to 64,000 ways. I can't even think about 64,000 ways to damage somebody. That's crazy. Now, y'all see the break in between these paragraphs. It says UFC 5 will have an online career mode. That's a deep conversation, and I got some deep thoughts about it. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. But in addition to damage, there will be a new cinematic replay for knockouts that is supposed to improve the presentation during and after the moment of a KO. Now, I don't really like that. I'm not a replay guy. I like when the knockout happens, boom, let them fall. Let's go ahead and, deal with everything real time like we do in the normal UFC fights. But I do like to see, let's say, the knockout play after the celebration and everything. Just like on Real UFC when Joseph Rogan says, let's see that again. What happened? I don't want to see the replay until my guy finishes celebrating. I would hate to hit somebody on the jaw and it just go boof, boof, boof. Let's keep it like it is on TV. Let me get the knockout. Let me run around, do my celebration, have Joe Rogan call for it, and have us see the replay. If it is consecutive replays right after the knockouts, I just hope you can turn that off. Now, here's where we get to the brutality. It was also shown to Insider Gaming that fighters will suffer broken noses. Have y'all ever seen a broken nose? That's going to look crazy in this game. Swelled eyes and more in fights. Not only that, each impairment will cause an issue for the fighter throughout the bout. Now that can turn out to be big. Let's say your left eye is swollen and they throw a right leg kick. They can make a mechanic where your left arm goes up slower because your eye's damaged to try to make it feel like your vision is delayed. There's a lot they can do with that in these matches. And finally, what everybody was asking for a very long time, there will also be chances for doctor stoppages. Now, that's going to look crazy as well. If the blood and everything in this game is bad enough for it to be rated M, could you imagine how bad that fighter is going to look for them to call a doctor stoppage? I'm telling y'all, when we play this game online, I'm going to be getting some doctor stoppages on all of y'all. Trust me. Now, for the fighting itself, it was said that the submission minigames are being removed. Instead, there was a newly built system based on transitions. The clip sent to Insider Gaming shows it looked similar to systems of past UFC titles. Now, if y'all remember UFC 2010, there was really no submission minigame at all. If somebody got you in a submission, they had like the energy bars at the bottom of the screen. If that energy bar ran out, you lost your submission. But if their energy bar ran out, tap central. It was all based on those transitions. If you held that submission in longer, you got in a better position until it was finally over. So that's going to be interesting as well. I actually didn't mind the submission mini games. I think it brought a sense of fairness. So we'll see how this new submission system works and if it will be good as the mini games were, in my opinion. Now, the biggest talking point of this whole thing, we actually got the release date for EA UFC 5 right now. EA Sports UFC 5 launches on October 27th for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S. Just as I told y'all in the previous video, when they normally announce these games, they come out right after the announcement. And this is just over a month after the announcement. So we'll be playing this game in a few months, y'all. And I'm excited and I'm ready. I haven't had my EA UFC fix since UFC 3 because I got in UFC 4, finished the career mode, and jumped out. I'm really hoping the career mode delivers in this one. But again, we're going to be talking about that tomorrow. Thank y'all for tuning into this video. Don't forget to drop a like on it and smash that subscribe button so you don't miss the rest of this EA UFC 5 talk, because we got a lot of information and we're going to be breaking this down until this game releases. Bomb Squad, let's get to that.